So what in the world is going on with the Houston Rockets? So Saturday night's game, Kevin Porter Jr. got upset at assistant coach and he left the game at halftime. And Christian Wood was brought off the bench due to him skipping a COVID testing. So Steven Silas was bringing him off the bench, still playing him starter level minutes, but decided to bring him off the bench as punishment to skipping that. And Christian Wood got petty about it, and he pretty much just refused to check into the game in like the second quarter. And due to both their actions, they both got suspended. I don't know for how long, but it's pretty much just more punishment towards their attitude issues. Now, Kevin Porter Jr., not the first time he's done something like this. Back his rookie season in Cleveland, he pretty much like tossed a plate of food or something because his locker in the locker room was switched. And the Cavs ended up waiving him. So he lost his job over that. So I would say Christian Wood and Kevin Porter are pretty lucky to just get suspended, because recently we saw Sunday night, Antonio Brown straight up got cut from the Bucks for leaving the game at halftime. So what's going on? So they were a championship team for a long time with James Harden. They brought in multiple stars, Dwight Howard, Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook. None of them panned out. And then the James Harden had enough, and Antonio Brown knew that it was the end of the era in Houston. I mean, so he left. Not Antonio Brown. Mike D'Antoni knew that he was the era was over, so he left and joined Philadelphia. A great situation for him over there. They're a very solid team. Then the James Harden trade, and then they got a rookie head coach who got through into this whole mess of James Harden wanting out, John Wall not playing in the contract, and just having hotheads like Christian Wood and Kevin Porter on his team, and then also just losing a lot of games. Like, he was under a lot of pressure, and it was not an ideal situation for a rookie head coach. But as good on Houston to keep him on for another year or two to actually see if he's a good coach. Because the Rockets have shown flashes of being pretty good, but for the most part, their offense is just really stagnant. They're trying to run, Kevin Porter Jr. at point guard, and he's not like a real playmaker. He's had nights. He's had great nights for the Houston Rockets. Like last year, he played for them, had like a 50-point triple-double. Other nights he was, having high assist numbers, but I really don't think he's an ideal playmaker for them. And just like the whole team is just getting frustrated. Like, you have young guys like Jalen Green, Kevin Porter, Amani Brooks, who's just like a high volume, low percentage shot makers at this point in their career, which, they're all going to get better. They're all going to improve. And I think Houston is kind of in the middle of what they're doing, because, they're obviously pushing the youth movement. They got young guys like Segru and Christian Wood, Amari Brooks, Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green, and got some other young guys on their bench. And they're not playing John Wall to push the young guy movement, tanking, so to speak. It's like a nice way to put it. But they're playing Eric Gordon, who is not helping them really, like he's helping them offensively, and he may be helping them win some games, but it's just like, it's either or. Like, you playing Eric Gordon but not playing John Wall. It's just like a weird balance they have going on over there. So Eric Gordon just recently, expresses feelings about wanting to get up out of Houston. I don't blame him one bit. And John Wall has been trying to get out of Houston for like a year and a half now, and they're just not doing anything about it. So they don't. It's just like Houston. It's just, they've been a mess ever since James Harden trade. It's just because they got assets from the Nets. They got Karis LeVert, who's looking like a promising star. He's kind of plateaued now, but he's still an 18 to 20 point per game score a night, and like that's ideal from like a shooting guard position. And then they also got Jared Allen, who's looking like a defensive monster over there in Cleveland, matched with Evan Mobley. And then they got draft picks from Brooklyn, who Brooklyn's probably going to be good for the next 3 to 5 years. KD is not slowing down. James Harden is, but Kyrie's still young. If Kyrie eventually, he can play a full 82 game schedule, he's going to be around for a long time. And they got young assets. Like, I think Joe Harris is still young. You got Cam Thomas. So the Nets are going to be good for quite some time, especially since they have just Kevin Durant. So those draft picks aren't really going to accumulate to something. Maybe one of like the 2027 draft picks they got from them is going to be a nice pick. But they kind of robbed themselves of the James Harden trade, and then they went and flipped Allen and LeVert for Oladipo and like some draft picks. But yeah, so what's going on? So I think the whole team is just kind of disgruntled and not happy with the whole situation. Like your older guys, your vets are not happy because of the inconsistent playing time. And they rather just get moved on and go to, a contender or a team that feels like they need them. And then the young guys are just not happy with, kind of the situation. And maybe it's the coaching, maybe it's the organization. It's just really not a good situation over there in Houston. And then you have Jalen Green, who said, I'm the number 1 draft pick. There's no other option. And we've seen rookies like Mobley, Scotty Barnes, Cade Cunningham, Franz Wagner, Chris Duarte, even Sengun, like they're all kind of at the same level, if not outperforming Jalen Green. So they might be questioning, their draft pick, even though it's still way too early to predict that. But it's just a lot of pressure, a lot of young guys, a lot of old heads. Like it's just not a good mix in Houston. I think Houston should definitely look to kind of rearrange their roster at this trade deadline. It's just, they picked up Kevin Porter Jr. knowing he had an attitude and an Eggerman issue. And they were planning on, and when they did pick him up last year, they were planning on benching him for the whole year and kind of, punishment of his actions over in Cleveland. But then COVID happened and they needed 10-day contract players to step up, and play for them. So that's when he got his shot, and he looked like a very, very good player for them. So they decided to keep him on for the rest of the season, and now into this season. Yeah, so just a mess over there in Houston. I really don't know exactly what the moves they should make. I'm pissed that Christian Wood got suspended because he's on my fantasy team, and he's doing all right. He's a he's a good fantasy player for me. Nothing outstanding, but he's a good center for me. But okay, I'm getting off topic here, but I thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.